All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea. I've been a data fellow this summer with the GSA Office of Strategic Communication on the digital team. And today I'm going to be talking about my project from feedback to action GSA CMP survey analysis. So the overview of the project for today will be the problem, the solution, and the impact. So the problem, how can we better understand GSA CMP survey data? First of all, what even is CMP survey data? So CMP stands for Content Management Platform, which is used by the GSA to oversee web content. And the Continuing Education Series is an initiative within the GSA that requires executive editors to attend education sessions. And these focus on the updated best practices of website management, learning new tools and techniques. And ultimately, the main focus is improving GSA.gov content across websites and microsites. So looking at things like accessibility, quality assurance, user experience, and more. And for those that aren't familiar, GSA.gov is the official website of the entire United States government. So the sessions occur multiple times a month. They're usually managed by staff on the digital team, mainly my supervisor. Shout out to her. And they've spanned back to, I believe, April 2024, and they introduce relevant curriculum and learning activities, and each session ends with a participant survey. So as you might imagine, the data just keeps increasing with each survey collected, and with it, so does the GSA's continued commitment to growth and improvement, making sure that the continuing ed curriculum is the best and the most effective it can be. The goals included extracting key ideas and sentiments from the survey data and visualizing trends and impact, like how likely users are to apply the ideas they learned in the continuing ed curriculum. Altogether, we want a way to transform the raw survey data into real actionable insights. So our solution was using data analysis to understand the why. So while the survey takes in multiple things like numerical scores and ratings, it also includes text responses from the participants. And with techniques like sentiment analysis, we are empowered to dive into the why behind that text feedback, really taking a closer look at what the most positive and negative feedback is, as well as potential action items for the future. And this was implemented in Python. So specifically, I wrote Python scripts that use like machine learning pipelines to load the data and perform sentiment analysis. So this was performed using tools and techniques like NLTK, which is the Natural Language Toolkit, specifically Vader. And also I use a transformer model, which is a machine learning model that can understand natural language or words in context. So for example, an example of a transformer would be like machine translation, like Google Translate, which understands the words in sequence. It's not just taking each word one by one. So the Python pipeline allows us to kind of annotate the data to better understand what each entry is. So it adds a sentiment score, keywords, and action items for each row in the data. So an example would be instruction was good and thorough, great refresher. And this would yield a positive sentiment score. So it gives both a numerical score and a label. Keywords, great and good. And this one doesn't have a particular action item. So this really helps us form a more robust idea of what the survey data looks like and what people are saying and what they want in the future. So action items are kind of feedback that gives suggestions for the future. And it's done by looking for words that are tagged as verbs that say things like, I wish it was that, you could improve this. So an example would be, I wish it was just an hour, referring to a continuing ed session. So that's an example of an action item that the Python script is able to extract. So an overwhelming majority of the responses are positive. So after processing the data using NLTK and those other tools I mentioned, we have a label for each entry, and we saw that 80% of entries were labeled as positive, 19 were neutral, and only 1% was negative. So this is after like the last year and a half of data, which is really lovely to see. Additionally, I was able to extract positive keywords such as great, professional, helpful, excellent, good. So these are kind of the words that the machine learning pipeline was able to pick out as being the most significant and the most positive, which is indicating really great results for the continuing ed curriculum so far. We further use data visualization techniques to help evaluate the user's likelihood of applying learned knowledge. So seeing what they learned in their sessions in their jobs as editors, website managers, etc., and seeing how likely they are to actually take the curriculum and put it in practice. So this is evaluated by 2 metrics collected in the survey. One, looking at existing web content, so how likely users were to apply what they learned to existing web content, and new web content, how likely they were to apply what they learned to new web content going forward. So plotting this, we have a graph that has 1 point for each response over a month-by-month timeline. So you can kind of see the clusters, and this has a trend line and a confidence interval to kind of track maybe certain recent events or changes in curriculum had the scores trending one way or another way. So it's really interesting to have a better idea of what the big picture looks like after collecting so much data. So this is the graph displaying the plot for existing web content. We also have a graph showing how likely participants are to apply knowledge to new web content. So again, the trend line has some dips and some curves, indicating how the survey scores were shaped by different things going on within the continuing ed curriculum or within the GSA at large, within our participants in general. So the ultimate impact is an efficient, scalable pipeline, which is a real game changer. So the pipeline is as follows. It's a really streamlined process that is made of 4 steps. So first, you load your data. So I made a numerical menu where you can select your data file and enter the name of the text-like column you wish to analyze. It actually auto-detects what the most text-like column is that has the longest text feedback in case you have a survey with like multiple columns. Then it runs a sentiment analysis on that column. Next, it generates a report summarizing the results, the most popular keywords. So that's negative and positive keywords. Hopefully there's more positive than negative, right? The top action items. So that's feedback that you could keep in mind to change the sessions going forward. And additionally, more detailed sentiment scores and labels. So that includes like compound positive and negative scores, which are really interesting to see and dive into. Lastly, you can create visualizations using that annotated data set, which can give you a more big picture representation of what is going on behind the scenes with the data. And the pipeline processes survey data efficiently, which really makes identifying these action items after every session much, much more efficient. Hence the title of my presentation, From Feedback to Action. And the sentiment analysis and visualizations provide valuable insights. They help us identify key trends, information, and how engaged the participants really are with the curriculum. And ultimately, this allows us to make better data-driven decisions that shape the continuing ed curriculum and can also be applied to other GSA surveys in the future. Any questions?